Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Thank you everyone for your presence today. We honor the presence of Mr. Zaini Osman to our talk today. Welcome to IIUM Institute of Islamic Banking and Finance. So today is the talk by Mr. Zaini Osman, the CEO of Waris Investment Private Limited. Okay, so when I first heard about Waris Investment Private Limited, the first thing that I'm intrigued with is the name, honestly. I mean, the Waris name is very catchy for people to know more about the company, to be honest. Okay, so since I'm intrigued with the name, so I Googled up a bit about this Waris Investment Private Limited. Honestly, it was during Dr. Adam's class actually. Okay, because we had to do Simon Waqf, so yeah, it's quite related. Okay, so I found out that actually Waris stands for Waqf Real Estate. Okay, so it's a very interesting name actually, and so as the name goes, Waqf Real Estate, Waris Investment Private Limited goes rights on the purpose to manage the endowment asset and also the real property investment, and as well as to preserve the social benefit to the social beneficiaries. So we really look forward to what Mr. Zaini Osman is about to share to us today. So without further ado, today Dr. Adam Abdullah will be moderating this session. So yeah, with that I pass the floor to Dr. Adam. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah, thank you very much, sister, for your kind introduction. A very warm welcome again to Brother Zaini, and a very warm welcome to all. A very good morning to you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So as our sister just mentioned, Waris is a fully owned subsidiary of Muis. But perhaps I can just give a very short introduction to Brother Zaini to help us understand how he's arrived at Waris. Actually, he's had a very extensive career. He started off his first degree at the University of Melbourne in architecture, and his second degree in Nanyang Technological University, where he did his MBA. And then, very interestingly, he spent some time at MIT and also the Wharton Business School in Massachusetts. He spent 13 years, I think, 13 years with Muis, and the past 6 years as CEO of Waris. And I seem to remember when I first studied Islamic banking and finance with UIA, I had two interesting classmates. One was from Waris, and the other one was Shamsia Abdul Karim, also from Muis. So, alhamdulillah, please give a very warm welcome to Brother Zaini. So I think the format is that Mr. Zaini is going to maybe give a 45-minute presentation, and then we'll obviously open up for Q&A. So without much further ado, perhaps I can invite Brother Zaini to give his presentation. Thank you so much.
I'll perhaps may not use the microphone because I need to slide through or bring you through the different slides, so I may not be able to have all the gadgets in my hands. So I'll just be a little bit informal. Perhaps thank you very much, MC. Oh, it's still not too loud. Okay, let me try. Or maybe we have to move it. Oh, because it's
Press button.
Yeah, I have to press button.
I'm going to sit in front, sorry.
Thank you, Master of Ceremony, Sister. Where is that? Sister. Thank you very much. Also, Dr. Associate Professor Dr. Adam for that very short introduction. Thanks a lot first of all for having me here. It was actually under the invitation of Professor Rosny, the Deputy Dean of the school here. I think first and foremost, today what I'm going to share with you is not so much about what Waris have done, but when I was preparing this whole presentation, I thought that the way that I should be doing this is more informal. I'm going to speak to you more from the heart rather than the usual lectures that you usually find. But first and foremost, I should start the whole presentation with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You know, when I see very common faces here, I see colleagues from Buddha, I've seen some researchers who have been to my office some time back. These have become very close friends of ours, you know, whenever I travel. But what I'm going to do today is just to give you an insight of some of the considerations when we deal with Waqf. For us in Singapore, Waqf is mostly real estate because we have quite a sizable portfolio of real estate in Singapore, where without Waqf, I wouldn't be in what I'm doing now. I would be doing something else. The unique combination is actually more on how we approach Waqf. I understand that many of you are experts in your own areas. You did more research on Waqf than I am. I'm not trained in Waqf at all. So without any baggage, they threw me into a swimming pool and please dive and swim and try and survive. So sometimes when you are left in such a situation, you need to breathe, you need to survive, right? So you need to find a way out on how to help our community enjoy the fruits and the benefits of Waqf. I hope by standing here I'm not blocking you from the slides. Are you alright with that? Especially those from the front. Okay. Yeah? The topic today, well, it's Friday, it's end of the week. I know it can be a little bit sleepy if I were to do it slide by slide until our Friday prayers today. So what I prepared a presentation full of pictures now. I promise you full of pictures. There are 38 slides, half of it text. But what I did was I highlighted some keywords. So if you are right in front there, behind, you feel that I'm talking a bit too much, just pick up those bold words, okay? There are keywords which I think we can bring out of the room today. So perhaps let's start our expectation first, setting our expectation. At the end of the day, I hope that I would prefer many more questions because I feel that I want to share a lot. I want to give a lot to you. What I know within that very short time managing the company and managing projects, which is definitely very challenging, especially in the context of Singapore. Perhaps by us ending the day, I would prefer everyone to bring up something. If you feel that I'm unable to address, we can always have other sessions together, hopefully inshallah. So I remember also at those days when I was a student, yes, I attend a lot of seminars and lectures just like everyone here. But I ask myself, you know, once I step out of the room, how can I apply? There's a lot of theories, there's a lot of concepts, but if you try to apply in your own context, it's definitely a bit more exciting and you can see results, right? So I hope that everyone is able to set that direction whereby we end today's session with something in mind and something that you want to apply not tomorrow, but perhaps in the course of your profession in years to come. Okay? Some of these slides I shared during a conference which we did recently at Pekanbaru. I've added one here and there. But I'll try to change the context a little bit, given that today my audience are a bit more from the academic. Many of you are still studying. Maybe some of you are also practitioners, so I'll try to balance between the two. It is tough to straddle between academic work and practical work, but I hope that I can address everyone's expectation today. You know, when we talk about Waqf, we feel that it's a global phenomenon that everyone is moving to Waqf, right? First of all, we start with the Ummah as a benefit to the Waqf, what Waqf can bring to the Ummah. The moment you bring the word Ummah, the next word that comes in your mind is at a global scale, right? Beyond your shores, beyond where you operate. You start in the big picture before you actually end up in a small picture. But today we are going to talk about the small picture before we see the big picture. The big picture only sets you a little bit of an imagination. What can be done, the potential that it can go. But when we are practitioners, we only see in terms of practical results right in front of us. Sometimes we dream too much, am I right? We overdream, but we do not know whether that dream can come true. So with something more practical right in front of us, it's easier for us to reach, it's easier for us to capture and create a change. So what really works in our context is look at the environment around us. Because I may speak on the experience we had in Singapore, and some of you may have other experience around the world, and perhaps more majority of you are operating in Malaysia. So the local context, di mana kita operate itu is the most fundamental question, because we operate in a very different context. If I compare Singapore and Malaysia, we have different laws. The way we look at things are pretty different when we look at Waqf. There's a religious component in it, no doubt. To us, it's a given. No need to argue about the status of Waqf anymore. It's there. There are many views here and there. For us, let's find a common ground. No point arguing about the religious issues when the office of Mufti or the Mufti already set the direction. So with that aside, you settle one issue. So for us, looking at the global context, I purposely chose all these little icons for you to imagine Singapore. Singapore is just a red dot here. No? This is a red dot, right? That's how small Singapore is, as Professor Adam told me. Zaini, you've got to press it harder to see the red dot. And that's Singapore. Yeah. And the whole sea that you see, the whole global planet that you see, Singapore is just that red dot. Very small. But I decided to choose certain icons for you to give you a picture of how we operate. We operate in a very small island. We have a lot of notable infrastructure. Our economy is based on finance, a lot on finance. We have no natural resources. Tak ada. Zero. Our only natural resources is people like me and of course other Singaporeans. That's the only resource we have. How big is Singapore? Maybe you can calculate. You are in campus a few thousand times, you get Singapore. That's how big we are. But looking at that context, what I'm saying is that real estate plays a very important role in sustaining Singapore's economy. And our Waqf plays has a place in the real estate sector in Singapore. Because why? When we look at how it came about, as Singapore develops, and Singapore used to be an island kan, part of Malaysia long time ago, and then kita diceraikan kan. Kena talak, tak tahu talak berapa talak lah. Talak satu lah. So when we do that, we had to survive, we had to grow, and real estate is a very important element of our economic growth, besides people. Perhaps some of you may have read, oil refinery we are second biggest in the world, I think. Do we have oil? Tak setitik. Minyak pun ada kat Singapura. Pam minyak pun tak ada. Minyak kelapa pun tak ada. But we are second biggest in the world when it comes to oil refinery. So looking at the context, we operate in places where we do not have resources and expertise, but we develop them. We find them, we look for them, and we nurture. Same like Waqf. We have nothing much other than what has been left over by the past generation, and how do we grow them? So that was the local context we have, and how do we go about doing it? When we talk about Waqf, we usually talk about the religious issues first. Am I right? I'm a practitioner. So I will not tapis. I will not filter in my views. You will first address religious issues. Different observation, different views, and you try to marry everything together. And once you spend a bit more time engaging in religious issues, by the time you want to go to the second step, you're already tired. You know? First issue, belum habis. You want to move on to the next issue. For us, legal issues, we leave it to the office of Mufti, where Muiz is. If there's any disputes, let's talk to Mufti and our Asatiza, which sets a certain direction. But our Asatiza do not engage in commercial work like what we do. So we clearly separate religious issues. For us is inherent, is gifted, is given already. Don't ask, tolong jaga. You know? So don't spend too much time dwelling into religious issues. We have a clear direction from fatwa, work on it, don't deviate. If there's any deviation, what do? Seek guidance again. But don't argue about religious issues. So for us, we are a bunch of very, I would say, very pragmatic people. We look at marrying two things when we talk about Waqf. We need to marry the commercial objectives of doing Waqf. Because once you have a commercial objective, you talk about returns, you talk about a certain market that you want to be in, right? But don't forget, Waqf is a very special component, and that's the community outcomes. The community outcomes is a representation of the smaller groups of the Ummah that we wanted to create, right? We realize that every lecture we go, every conferences we go, we will hear this word Ummah. And we are all part of this global Ummah, no doubt. But we are operating in a local context, in a local community, right? How do we go about addressing that? So we asked ourselves, and we thought that very key is to see how the community actually benefit from the commercial objective that we are trying to achieve. Memang susah. I give you an example. If I were to build a hospital, a Waqf hospital, which has a community element, right? But the state is already producing so many hospitals and funding those hospitals using state funds. Is there a need to do another hospital for Waqf or generated by Waqf? May not. Because you will not be able to achieve its commercial objectives. Because every hospital, even if state funded, they make money, right? Yes, it's highly subsidized, no doubt. But Waqf has to address other areas where, for example, where we have some of our Waqf where the beneficiaries were the medical poor, those who require medicine. And straight away when you look at it, please go to the hospital, look for subsidies, right? But why did the Waqf has an objective which is related to generating help for the poor, especially for medicine? So for us, we will look at that as what falls between the cracks. That means kalau orang tu get all the help that the government give and they're still poor and they fall under, that's where Waqf will have its play or will have its role in that particular area. We don't go to the top. If the state is already responsible for a certain aspect in our daily lives or in our religious lives, there's a certain area which definitely under gap. So Waqf should be addressing those gaps in today's context. We cannot beat the state. The state has all the resources here. It's their first responsibility to do it. Then where those areas, where those gaps are, that's where we play a part. Plus I challenge ourselves that look, whenever we talk about Waqf, it's always an old thing. We look at old realities, but we forget to see in new ways to innovate. So if you place in certain ideas, how do you generate innovation along the way during Waqf is very key. Because if there's no innovation in Waqf in today's context, it will remain to be an old asset, nothing interesting, and we continue to be in this room having seminars, rather than having in meeting rooms generating new projects. So hopefully, inshallah, one day, when we step up, we are in meetings, generating new projects, rather than clarifying concepts all the time, inshallah. And I decided to also choose this terminology, impact investing. I think it's catching up. I picked up this definition of impact investments from this website called the Global Impact Investing Network. If you look at the definition, more or less, it's about Waqf. What Waqf is doing. You invest in a bankable project, whether it's real estate, whether it's infrastructure, and you will find that the returns is for social benefits. Selalunya Waqf has a Waqf deed. It's not a Waqf if there's no deed, there's no intent being addressed, there's no intent being recorded, it's not Waqf. Every Waqf must have intention, right? So with that intention, usually is for social benefits. Macam-macam lah caranya, depending on which Waqf you pick up. So for us, when we look at it, we feel that Waqf itself is a model of impact investing today. Definitely. Which model is a final model outside there other than Waqf when it comes to impact investing? It clearly defines holistically what Waqf is about. It gives you social returns or social benefits, but at the same time generating financial return. Out there in the market, if you are operating projects and your projects do not give any financial returns, whether you are doing community work, there must be certain KPIs, right? Certain returns along the way. If you spend $2 million or $200,000, what does it generate? It has to have a certain return back to everyone who's benefiting from your programs. So therefore, I think Waqf has a very, very important component to look at the returns and how do you put that in financial dollars. Otherwise, the banks will not talk to you. No one will talk to you if they don't find it respectable, right? So I think it's the market that generates this. I shared this slide because when you talk about Waqf, it's actually your mental model. How in your brains right now talk about Waqf? Straight away when you talk about Waqf, you will ask about the definition of Waqf kan? Macam-macam definition, there's a lot of definitions of Waqf. But let's put all those things aside. Let's define what Waqf is supposed to do. So if Waqf is about real estate, the first thing that you see is always a building, brick and mortar, batu, cement. But I think we have to go beyond that. Beyond brick and mortar, how do you actually generate income to generate our social religious program? Because in Singapore, the government don't give you funds for religious programs. For all religion, there's no such budget. From national coffers, from income, from taxpayers to generate programs for religious purposes. $0. You look at our budget every year, Ministry of Finance, you tengok our finance minister, Atos Najib has just launched, announced Malaysian budget 1 or 2 weeks back. If you look at Singapore's budget, there's nothing about religious component. So we have to survive on our own, right? To survive on our own, we have to first of all look at what resources we have. So we look at Waqf has the ability to maximize its value. How do we stretch that value to make sure that the intent of the pewakif is met? Setiap Waqf ada pewakif. Pewakif, that's why nama kita waris, kita jadi pewaris. How do you fulfill the intent of the pewakif yang wakafkan? How do you fulfill first? Because if you go on any projects, it looks beautiful to have buildings, to have millions of dollars being spent. But you will miss totally if you don't understand the intent of the pewakif. If you don't start with that, I assure you, I guarantee you, things will go wrong. We have started projects cannot take off 10 years. Because we fail to see what was the intent of the pewakif. The Waqf has existed before you, especially for us in our today's context. Then, immediately we look at how to communicate to everyone that the Waqf will benefit everyone. Today, if you talk about Waqf, straight away, people will ask who will have the ultimate benefit from each of the projects you do. So another very, very important element is to generate the right information, to communicate well, to say that, well, we operate in a very lucrative property market, we generate returns, but how do you channel those returns back to the people? People need to know. So we have very, very detailed strategic plan, strategic communication plan to make sure that when we start to launch projects, I'm seeing myself there, it's the first time, thanks for it. How do we then close a project to say that yearly, annually, that particular group of people is generating from the project that you have been doing over the years? At the same time, when you talk about Waqf, you talk about generating enough activities within a larger market. If there's no market for Waqf, or you don't operate within a market, there's nothing to earn. So when we look at Waqf, we look at us not in the Waqf sector. We don't operate in the Waqf sector. We operate in the real estate sector of Singapore. That's where the money is, right? Because Singapore is built on infrastructure, it's built on finance, and we must be part of it. We cannot miss the boat. So these are important questions we ask ourselves, and we also say that, look, while we can generate a lot of ideas, we don't forget that people are very important to us, and their perspective and inputs matters first. Sometimes we feel kita dah bagus, right? We did a lot, we are successful, we are good, but we forgot that there are many experts, there are many views outside there that has to be taken into consideration. So when we deal with our stakeholders, the community, your critics, your online warriors, armchair warriors that you have, the asatiza, the families, you have to factor in all this perspective. It sounds good to launch a project which costs millions of dollars, but after that you get a slew of complaints and comments and all those backstabbing that's happening, criticisms. But before that, what we do is that we got to look at them as your friends. These are interested parties, and they all want to have a say in Waqf. I'm sure, because the moment you say Waqf is for the community, everyone wants to have a say. How do you factor in all those ideas to make sure you can address them, and to make sure you can assuage and make them part of you? They believe in what you do. So when you do with this, you got to build trust. Perlu percaya, saling percaya mempercayai. Because immediately when you talk about Waqf, who is gaining, who sits in the board of directors, governance issues starts to emerge. Am I right? Who has a share? Are you sharing the benefits, or are you sharing certain dividends to certain people? These are governance issues. So if many of us here perhaps are doing research in finance, in banking, you know governance is very key, especially when money flows, right? When power is on the table for you to just use a pen and put your signature on that piece of paper. It's power enough. And all this can be misled if there's no proper governance, there's no trust among the community, right? So we need to also know that sometimes Waqf owners are not the beneficiary. Waqf owners tu kadang mutawali kan, they are like the trustee, kadang mutawali, guardian of the Waqf, and they are not. They are not owners to the Waqf. How do you also bring them in to make sure that you manage the beneficiary, penerima Waqf, hasil Waqf, and not you as someone who is managing it? Very difficult to change. I manage it, I must get something first lah. Why must the beneficiary come first? Usually in a Waqf deed, they will tell you if you are managing the Waqf, you can only earn up to 5%. Everything is specified. Those who are lawyers in this room will know that these things are specified. How do you bring that and say that, look, to be in this sector, there's not much to earn. You only can earn such. So these are very practical issues that you have to ask yourself, to be in this sector, it may not be as lucrative as you think. Then, of course, in Singapore's context, regulation and policies are very strong. How do you balance and harmonize commercial objectives, religious obligation, plus commercial thinking? And we have to balance and harmonize all these things together so that we achieve the objective of the program. Memang susah. So I can give you an outline first. As you think through, these are things to balance along the way. And if you want to generate any returns, without competition, there's no way you can generate good returns. So we decided that we feel being competitive, operating within a very demanding, challenging market, actually is good for us. It is good for you to be competing out there head-on with the market because you can produce products, you can produce ideas, you can generate returns which no one would have thought it can be done. So we look at competition are important so that it can generate income for beneficiaries. Of course, there are challenges in the different districts that you deal or you have your assets in. When Waqf, some of us here in Malaysia said, my Waqf is in kampung, no returns. Some Waqf is in the city, but someone else is controlling, But there must be ideas on how we can migrate those Waqf, consolidate them, and bring to a high-performing asset in town. We've done so. We have Waqfs in red light districts. You tahu tak red light district apa? Red light district apa? What is red light district? Not the red light t-shirt behind there. These are areas where undesirable activities are happening. For example, prostitution and all that. It happens. So how do you actually generate income from prostitution? Can you? You can't. So you've got to find ways to migrate those low-yielding, undesirable activities going on to a much more acceptable location. And this requires innovation. This requires market players to be inside. So therefore, these are some of the problems definitely between the Asatiza will tell you, oh, ini boleh, itu tak boleh, or you cannot. So all these issues, religious issues, if you are a commercial player, don't get too well into it. But you've got to drive those projects. So it's the way in which your business case is being done. You don't address those religious issues because ultimately the state, I think the Sultan has a say in Waqf here in Malaysia. But in Singapore, the Mufti has a say. It doesn't go to any politician. It doesn't go, or it is not even controlled by the government. So we have a free play. Okay? When you deal with Waqf, it's almost like this. It's almost like how you deal with shares, bonds, and how the market operates. We are in the center of Islamic banking and finance. I believe most of you look at the market, read articles, read Business Times. You will read a lot of issues that's happening around us, especially that will impact the market prices. Same. When we look at Waqf as real estate, we look at the market price. We look how to compete outside them because they are movements, and you have to create products that's able to compete with the right price, with the right development to make sure that is what the market wants. So some of our Waqf I can share with you. They are commercial, residential, we run service apartment, we have Waqf malls, we have Waqf madrasas. But where it's generating money is all commercial. And of course, our Waqfs which are purely malls, they stand on their own also. That's a different topic altogether. But ultimately, to generate all this, we know that we have to create our own source of income. And at the same time also, is to be very sustainable. Sometimes when you look at the market, it goes up, everyone wants to be part of it. When it starts to go down, some groups start to lose their jobs, some projects will fail. But how do you be part of this whole market, which is up and down, and you want to continue to be relevant and sustainable, generating income? So you got to watch. You got to watch which market to be in, where to place your products, what kind of tenants should be operating in your Waqf. If your Waqf is the type that attracts tenants which are susceptible to the market, be very careful, look at them every month. You know, when oil and gas were affected, we have our tenants who operate in some of our Waqf offices. We look at them every month, whether they pay on time, whether they pay their rental, or they are asking for postponement. Once they give you indicators that they require a little bit of, you know, can we refinance or can we do like quarterly payments? These are all indicators that the business is not doing well. But remember, how do you then manage sustainability? How do you ensure that the Waqf continue to generate sustainable income? It's not just making sure that you sign an agreement with Masuk. It's all this little nitty-gritty monitoring and tracking that will generate the right information for you to decide who to operate. Of course, at the long term also you need strategies. These are normal property cycles and economic conditions. But you are in the environment, don't think that Waqf is a protected sector. Because you are Waqf, people will have a softer heart. They will think that you are doing good things for the Ummah. No, once you are in the market, there's a lot of loan sharks, there's a lot of sharks out there. People who want to take advantage. So you've got to make sure that the strategies that we have continue to be nimble as things change. Doing Waqf, the day that you start a proposal and the day it's approved, until the day it's completed, 3 or 4 years down the road, it's not the same. What you wrote 4 years ago and what you achieve after that is never the same. So the advice is, every time you've got to remain nimble, you've got to be very agile, not only to the proposal, you've got to remain agile on how you manage your people and cash. Waqf, I can tell you, is all about the blood. The blood is cash. It's about money. How do you manage money along the way? How do you manage resources, people like you and me managing Waqf? How do you attract people that will continue to work on your project for the next 3 or 4 years? There's a lot of millennials today that you deal with. Today I deal with millennials. My office have about people who are in their 30s. If you don't excite them with very good projects that can change and adopt their ideas, you will lose them in 1.5 years. Confirm, Prof? Confirm you will lose them. How do you attract millennials who will stay with you 5 years until you finish your project? Which means that whatever ideas that was generated must change along the way. And they must feel they are part of it. They are the ones who came up with their ideas and they are the ones who actually changed those ideas. I'm still in the job because no one stopped me from what I want to do. Because I'm still young also. So if I have someone up there who keeps saying, Zaini, you cannot do this, cannot do that, I don't think I'll be here. So in a way I'm quite a maverick. But not to the extent of Tony Fernandez yet. No. So innovation along the way, I'll show with you the innovation that you need to do with Waqf. But I'm actually just first part of my presentation. I actually have about maybe 15 more minutes. I'll be very fast. A snapshot of Waqf in Singapore, that's how a Waqf were when we started off in the 1980s. In the 1980s, our Waqf were like that. They were all old, rumah kampung, unpainted, it's all dilapidated. Their potentials were all not maximized. And their value were low. When we look at the economic growth of Singapore, the property prices was going like that. And our Waqf was continuing to be like that. Isn't it your responsibility to make sure that you catch up? It has a big potential, right? Many of you look at graphs right every day, many different type of graphs. The moment you see a gap, what you do? It's telling you certain things, right? So you got to catch up. And when we look at our Waqf, most of our Waqf is in the city. It is all in CBD, majority. Of course, we have some outliers outside the city. But most of it is near to Orchard Road, Marina Bay Sands. You may have heard all this. The moment you Google Singapore, you will see some Singapore Tourism Board will tell you where Orchard Road shopping is. It will tell you that Marina Bay Sands has a casino there. Right? And the casinos in Singapore, by the way, is not designed for locals. You want to go inside a casino in Singapore, if you're a local, you pay. Casinos in Singapore is designed for Indonesian foreigners. Marina Bay Sands is designed for China. Genting in Sentosa is designed for Chinese, Indonesians. So it's never about for local market. So I share with you a little bit of the thinking. And that's why Singapore has a lot of money. Because these people put in their money in all these places. So it's never for locals. But you will find that most of our Waqf is only in this area. So what can you do with it? When you start to plot, you see certain patterns. You will see certain potential. And you need to do something. But before we do that, of course, we've shared this for quite a couple of times. Our fatwa is very progressive. And we have unclear religious issues straight away. We meet our mufti. Our mufti will have his own set of advisors from our Jota Kuasa fatwa. And I think the most notable was the ruling on migration, Waqf migration, which is istibdad. I'm not going to dwell into the definition, but we've done so. So going on also, beyond fatwa is our constitution. Singapore constitution, I would safely say that we are the only secular country in the world to have an AMLA, Administration of Muslim Law Act, in our constitution. No other secular countries have it. So of course Malaysia being Islamic, based on Islamic constitution, would have it. But our rights are protected in Singapore. Later I know I will have questions at Singapore, tak boleh azan and whatnot. These are normal things. But I tell you, the government has already placed a special emphasis, will take care of you, all your needs will be taken care of. Do you know that in Singapore, the constitution and planning has allowed us to build mosques up to 2030? 2030 kita dah tahu masjid apa akan dibina. Whole of Singapore. It's all done. We know which Waqf will be more or less next one, based on the market, based on demands of the market. Because our constitution was strong. And our constitution was actually done, or in fact drawn up by Professor Ahmad Ibrahim, the late Ahmad Ibrahim. Okay? And this is a very important slide to show you. The clear delineation between Majlis and commercial. Waris Investments, yes, it is a commercial entity. It's 100% owned by MUIS, and it's a Baitulmal company. If you are a Baitulmal company, if you sit in the board of directors, do you want directors' fees? Would you take directors' fees? Do you have a share in what you do? Don't have. $0. Don't have. I don't have a share in any of these properties. I'm paid monthly. My bonuses are based on performance, but never based on profit sharing. So the structure on how you deal really starts from the base. What is the organization? What's the governance structure? And how do you actually push for all these Waqf to be out there? There must be a clear delineation between policy and investment. Ni tak ada, you will continue to be in meeting rooms fighting each other. Confirm. Because you will never be in agreement, right? If you will melt all these things together. So what we did was, in terms of numbers, if you look at those kind of properties, susah. Properties which are managed by us are yielding about 2.53%. Mind you, why is it low? Because we cannot sell alcohol, we cannot run non-Sharia compliant activities. We have a lot more constraints in running Waqf properties, so our yield are pretty low compared to the market. Kalau you can run a spa, you can run a F&B, you can run a bar, of course, your yield will shot up. So be very careful when you invest in REITs and all that. You must know where they are investing in. Just to give you a snapshot, our Waqf properties generate this kind of income in the last 5 years, from 6 million to 8 million. And this is the kind of targets that we set ourselves at. We don't sit on our laurels and we are happy with it. Every year we must generate better income because we must be able to disburse this amount of money to the beneficiary. I can tell you that very expensive is always property tax and managing property. Numbers, crunching numbers are important to managing Waqf. It's not about I generate 1 million tomorrow, I'm going to give 800,000. No. It's really operating in the market and to see whether ultimately how it efficient you are in generating the net income. That's where the beneficiaries will get. Kalau you tak generate this income and it's never increasing, something is not right. So we set ourselves as revenue managers. We manage revenue. Because in any hotels, you ask the GM of a hotel, do you have a revenue manager? They will have one. If they don't have a revenue manager in a hotel, something wrong with that hotel. Same like us. While we are managing it, we manage those revenues to make sure our Waqf recipients get their rights. We develop properties. And when this whole chart is telling you a few things, you look at the year of completion, you look at the year when we were selling it that time, when we launched those properties. These are all Waqf. These are all Waqf properties in Singapore over the past 10 years that we developed, or 15 years. Look at the prices last year. Almost double, if not, it went up 30%. If your interest rates are going at how many? 4-5% and your value is beyond that, doesn't it make sense? Put money in property, but you must be able to have some holding power. This word holding power and all that is your ability to sustain when market is pretty bad, right? So you can see properties of Waqf are market prices. And today we are generating the kind of prices which is reflective of Singapore's market. So Waqf cannot be seen as low yielding, no potential. You got to look at it from a market perspective, then you can drive value. So this is driving value. This is giving you an example on how we drive value from the product that we create, from the type of the property, and how it is responding based on where it is operating today. So these statistics are very key to us. We read statistics almost every other day to see whether are we somewhere there. So where Waris is, we have of course analysts who manage all this. But I'm going to go straight on not the big numbers, but what drives us the right energy, the right plans to make it work. Every company has its own strategy. It has its own formula. But this is what we think after we met a lot of people who almost in any conversation will ask, what's your magic potion? What is that you have created that works in the market, that works for Waqf that many other countries don't? It's actually pretty simple, but it requires tenacity and determination. Tak boleh hari ni start, besok dah lemah. No such thing. Because it's a very competitive environment. First of all, when I started out, I said you gotta have the right intention. Please understand, when you deal with Waqf, the right outcome is very important. What is the intent of the Waqf? Understand it right from day one. If you go and I share this with everyone who visits us, and I said that the moment you start doing a Waqf project with an Excel sheet, you start putting numbers and formulas, you're wrong to fail. Because the pewakif never started bequeathing their property long time ago using Excel worksheet, using numbers. No. What was the intent of that person deep inside the heart? Yeah, maybe pewakif tu dah tak ada lagi. You got to find the families, you got to read to see what was the intent back then, what was the soul and the spirit of that Waqf when it was created. That must be set first. That sets the objective of the Waqf. From the objective of the Waqf, then you can well down the numbers lah. Right? If that is not set first, if you think this has money, this will create an impact to the world, you go on that basis, bound to face challenges. Very practical. Don't think that every Waqf tu tak ada niat dia yang mungkin lebih luhur daripada apa yang kita fikirkan. We always think, oh, at this period, we will create the best. What was it back then? Ask yourself. So, we do a lot of research. We want to protect our Waqf. We want to make sure the intent of the pewakif at that time is protected right from the start, so that the disbursements can be achieved. If you look at Singapore, this is the kind of disbursement last year, based on our audited records. Almost 50% of our money go to the mosque, perhaps about 1/4 or slightly less than that goes to madrasah. So these are money that we generate on top of the donations, on top of programs that they they earn money with to sustain Singapore's religious ecosystem. Our Islamic religious ecosystem is based on the mosque, madrasah, and our Malay Muslim organizations to run social religious programs. Zero funding again from government. No funding. Find your own money. So, I think many of you may have read this. We have done Sukuk Musyarakah. I'm not going to dwell into this. Very successful. Today we are going to redo this building. Next year, you will see the enhancement to this Waqf with new retail, with bigger malls. So when we do such projects, don't forget, after 10 years, must do something. Because the market has already moved. You need to intensify, you need to improve your property. Asset enhancement is very key. So today we forget about Sukuk Musyarakah already. We are thinking about asset enhancement. You pick up any prospectus, risk prospectus, any risk prospectus, kalau risk prospectus tu doesn't have AEI, Asset Enhancement Initiative, there's something wrong with the company. Don't invest here if they don't have AEIs. Every REIT company must have a plan to enhance its assets, to generate revenue. So we look at our Waqf properties, if it's old and there's potential for it to generate more income, we spend time to look at all those properties. It looks beautiful still. Yeah, it needs a bit of paint. But the money is not on the facade, it's on the space that you create, the retail space, more units. We used to have 84 apartments for this. Along the way we added, it's 107. Today we are going to generate 122 service apartments. What does it mean to the Waqf and Baitul Mal? More income.
Are you now fully managing that?
Yes.
It's now full of generally anchor investors or anchor rental
Operator?
leases or operators in what you do?
Our operator is Ascot International. Ascot International, as you all know, is the global operator, largest global operator for service apartment. And they decided to work with us. Why? Because they saw the social benefits and the contributions that they want to be in. You know, when you were operating this 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, 13 years ago, you remember there was a period of SARS? Remember?
Yeah.
When we completed this property, there was SARS in Singapore. No one wants to take taxi, no one wants to go hospital, economy was really dipping. And at that time we completed this. Yes, our sukuk was very successful. The take-up rate, coupon rate were all there inside the journals. But if you pick up any journals, no one tell you that we actually completed this property when there was a SARS, very severe acute syndrome throughout Singapore. And during that time, no one wants to enter hotels, no one wants to operate hotels. So what happened to our Waqf? It's almost going to fail, you know. No one said that our sukuk was paying out 3.75% so well every year, but people forget where the money comes from. It doesn't come from the air. It comes from all these operators who are willing to work with us. So they came forward, they managed the property. Alhamdulillah, within less than 1 year after SARS was cleared, business started to pick up. It doesn't mean that when you are in a very difficult situation, you stay at home. You go and find. There's opportunities. And big names like this came forward to work with us. And we were equally surprised. Why do you want to work with us? Waqf, you know. You Ascot International, you tell me your portfolio in Middle East alone, you just open 11 service apartments. But why us? Because there are other inherent qualities of being such property. We told them there's a masjid above us in it. Who wants to work with you when there's a mosque down there? At that time. But you'll be surprised that people want it. Because mosques are crowd pullers, right? And when there's crowd, then you generate economy, generate a bit of commercial activities. So of course, there's commercial. But when we were doing Sukuk Musyarakah at that time, 35 million, if you have read all the journals, which a lot of PhD writers are doing or have recorded, today we don't do Sukuk anymore. Because Sukuk are expensive. And when we did this Sukuk, after that Malaysia catch up, Malaysia is bigger than us. We cannot catch up what Malaysia have. We are small, our resources are limited. But we needed money to generate to raise funds to channel to fund new projects. And if we continue to do so, kita tak ada duit. I know it's 11 o'clock, Doctor, if I may continue. We needed new ways on how to raise funds. Yes, I can tell you the banks are waiting to give you money. In Singapore, banks are knocking on our doors. Please take our money, lah. Don't worry. You just pay back our interest every year. They know we can pay interest. We cannot fail because we are a government-linked board. Government-linked company belonging to a state board. But we did not take. Why must I be paying interest or returns back to financial institutions? We decided to look at the resources belonging to Singapore in our community, and we felt that, our mosques have got a lot of money, You go and check your AJK, look at all your financial statements, you see how much money is inside their bank. I can tell you that some of the bigger mosques have got millions. In Singapore, our cash balance at 71 mosques in Singapore. Make a guess how much? Cash, unused cash in their banks combined. Half a billion? Not really, maybe around 100 million. We have unused cash about 100 million, 70 to 100 million.
Just sitting in bank accounts.
Sitting in bank accounts waiting for the money to be used for upgrading our mosques. That's why we upgrade mosques. If you go to Singapore, their mosques are always upgrading. There's always works which Waris is involved. Our upgrading don't stop. Because when you start generating projects, the money will come. It will come on its own. And when people see activities, they will put money. So what do we do with all these funds which are lying, not doing anything? You put in FD, you can get less than 1%, 4.2%. You put in certain Islamic structures, you will get 1.3, 0.9, depending on when your semi-annual payout is. So we decided, let's call all these institutions. I need to develop Waqf, I need $5 million. How do you raise $5 million? Without banks, slowly develop an initiative which we call an institutional investment initiative. We brought in mosques, we brought in madrasas with money to invest in a Waqf property. Because your Waqf property, once it's bankable, one, it can generate return. People will want to put money there, right? And people trust you already. Of course, there's legal arrangements behind all this, and we gave out hibah. This was a pretty successful. If you look at the beautiful pictures later, this is the works behind it. How do we raise income? How do we raise capital for Waqf? We took 5 mosques and they contributed 1 million each. We gave them hibah at 2.1%, definitely better than the market, right? And we pay out semi-annual. Their principal is guaranteed by the MIS. If we default, MIS will pay. Nothing wrong with that. So over 24 months when we were constructing our Waqf, they were getting this money, 42,000 throughout. You put it in the bank, how much? 1 million will give you. And it's interest, We give hibah, it's a gift. So we generate our projects from money that comes from our institution, and from other Waqf sources also invest in them. So one project, it looks pretty simple, but behind it, there's a lot of buy-in. A lot of my staff goes around salam cium tangan. You have to do that. You have to do that. I go around meeting some of the chairman, principal. If you know bawa roti prata, bawa tosai, things. This is all soft diplomacy. Have to do it. Don't think you're very smart out there. I go around, knock doors, go meetings, buy kopi, sit together, serve people. That's how it gets to be done. You may have the best plans in the world, but if you cannot touch the heart, nothing works. You must be able to touch the heart. You can have all the hardware, HARDWARE, but if you don't have the hardware, forget it. In this whole current, how you work, you need a heart. You buy in once people believe in you, trust you, inshallah. There's many ways to do it. Okay? Of course, after that, we look at real estate as a product. We need to find the right product that can compete with all our properties around the area. So you can see that we have all these properties that we have created. We communicate with our community leaders give them copy, tell them updates about your projects. And these are the very people who put in 5 million in your project. And you cannot keep quiet. You cannot just give quarter 1 report, quarter 2 report, just like how listed company does, right? You got to bring them in for copy, update, bring to site, see this is where your money is, you know, alhamdulillah, all this Waqf is building because of your money, right? Treat them as people who wants to know, treat them as people who are very important stakeholders to you. It is a lot of time. You need to put in all this time, right? It's as simple as today, we do doa selamat in your mosque, we sponsor that. As simple as that. It goes a long way. So next I'd like to share our formula is on our people. The expertise that we have in this company. We look for talents every day. Every other week, personally myself, I will go for copy with a lot of people. Not because I want to recruit them tomorrow, because I do not know when any of our staff will be replaced. And when they are really good, you create jobs for them. So we place a lot of talents we place a lot of talent management in our system. We meet people, we go people beyond having Sharia expertise. We look for people in these areas. And today we have all these people in the company. And these are all my staff. By the way, this is adiknya Ustaz Abdul Rahman. Professor, who's that finance professor? Professor Abdul Rahman. Yang buat kefik tu lah. Kefik. Zahiruddin. This is his younger brother, Ustaz Zahiruddin's brother. He's an architect and he has a PR in Singapore. So Amin is actually Ustaz Zahiruddin's brother. So he's with us. What I'm saying is that I'm showing this picture because they are all as young as you. No, I have. All young, passionate, and they are all smart people. And we pay them market rate. We bring them in with the right employment system. And of course, we have a very young crew of executives. I'm finishing. Okay, 1 minute. As I said, I build a lot of trust. I reach out to people. In fact, we reach out to people a lot through print and non-print. We got to build them. You got to give information to a lot of people on your structures and how you inculcate values and how we innovate our assets and we communicate with them. Right? We are in Facebook, but in Facebook, when you deal with social media, be very careful. Especially on Waqf. You don't want to engage yourself with arguing about whether this is Waqf or whether it is not. Definitely this will happen in social media. Don't waste time. You put yourselves in social media to tell you the product that you create. Not about to argue whether this is Waqf or not. Don't waste your time in all this because you know the objectives are already set, cast in stone. So just to share with you, we did our case study, used to be like that. This is pretty recent, we finished it last year, we created this. And this is not 3D, this is actual. This actual building, kita sengaja ambil time waktu maghrib. So that's when the best time to take photo, right? So we created 42 units, we created 3 different type of housing, 5 retail shop, and even we restore bakery. It doesn't mean old buildings cannot restore. You know what's the value of this building before and after? You all are finance staff, finance graduates, researchers. This is how we look at the value of the building. It was at that time 20 million. When we completed it, we created 40 million worth of value. How many times it went up? 2-3 times. You got to bring more space to generate income from rental. Dulu, per year, all these only generate you 72,000. Today, all these units, same units, because you have enhanced it, is giving you 500,000 every year. From also the units that you don't sell at atas, you rent it out. So I'm showing you real stories, real practical stories, not 10 years ago, it's only last year. And today we are still tracking the numbers. So it's possible. We did Waqf Al-Huda, used to be those 2 kampung in District 10, very expensive area. We just completed this last month. 6 units. It can be done, it can be done. You just need to put a bit of time and brains on it. Yes, a mosque beside, we created 6 units. Doesn't mean that sebelah masjid tak boleh buat apa-apa. AJK kasih kopi lah, kasih epok-epok, it's okay. You can. Hopefully you buy them over, you can do that inshallah. But we invested, gave money to enhance this mosque before we built this. So the mosque cannot need usang, right? The Waqf is so good, but the mosque what happened? So what we did was, we did the mosque first. We upgraded the mosque, make it look so nice before we developed this. It was how it was before, and today it is like a boutique mosque. We put money first. We put about 1 million, we advanced the money. We don't even know we're going to get this money back. Someone will have to make sacrifices. The Waqf only gives you the land, and after that you build these houses. And it's not 3D, this is actual Arabis. So we build it, and we're going to rent out each of these unit is about Singapore $4 million. RM is about 12. It is out for rental now. Baru habis, belum masuk. Their offers in rental, we are talking about 10,000 per month, Singapore dollars. Singapore dollars. I give you numbers. Without numbers, you cannot buy in people. You can show beautiful pictures, but if you cannot realize these numbers, you are not a developer. You cannot do any value enhancement. You've got to be very certain that these numbers are more or less pretty accurate and it can be delivered before and after. So pakcik-makcik, jangan tunjuk gambar cik cantik. You show numbers. You crunch those numbers, you can generate it, people say yes. I'll take it. All you need is actually show one slide. But the work behind it takes more than that. Right? So alhamdulillah, we manage. This is how we finish projects at Waqf. We not only show the quality, but we tell the journey of the Waqf, and we communicate to people how we deliver that journey. So in short, that's my little summary. There's always upside. Governance is important for Waqf. Viability of the projects must be commercial. Look at the beneficiaries, and more importantly, the system and planning. Very key to any of Waqf projects, because it's a business. Because if you don't, you will bleed, and once you bleed, besok tutup kedai. So tutup kedai, you all know lah. The projects cannot run. So it has to be very, very real. Do not expect people who's going to come forward to help you. Zero help. But go and fight on your own. And of course, you use systems around you for your own benefit, inshallah. So, wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Thank you very much, Dr. Zaini, for a very enlightening presentation this morning. I think what we've really learned is that Waris, first and foremost, is a real asset manager, a real estate asset manager, and it's really geared towards providing sustainable real estate investments. And like any investment manager, we're dealing with a lot of monitoring and governance issues. We're dealing with a lot of revenue and cash management in order to try and generate sustainable returns to those beneficiaries. And to me, sustainability means profitability, ultimately. That's the bottom line. So, alhamdulillah. I was just going to ask a very quick question, if I may. You were talking earlier about the returns. You mentioned about 2.5%. Presumably that was net. Gross. Okay. But that's still fairly comparable to, an international, property market return in Australia or anywhere else for that matter. 2.5%, 3%. It's fairly comparable. So, alhamdulillah. Okay. So, brothers and sisters, I'm sure you might have some interesting questions to offer Brother Zaini. Yes.
I have one question because I see the snapshot of financial performance. I see from along 5 years there is a decreasing of occupancy rate and result in decreasing also income and also net income. So why this happen and how the Waris handle this?
Okay, sure. Let me bring to that table. I know that table can generate a lot of criticism and a lot of this. Okay, thank you very much for that question. I'll spend a bit more time here. You mentioned about our occupancy rate dropping. It's actually increasing. It was from 77 to 95%. Just to share with you. Oh, it's the other way. Look at the year. Sorry, we were doing it the other way. But let me touch a bit on this since you bring up that. When we started off at 77%, it tells you a certain story. At 23%, why can't you at that time occupy this building? Why does it need 5 years to move from 77 to 95%? It gives you a certain indication, right? Two things. Either for over 5 years, you have been improving your property, you have been putting money and you have been investing in them, more take up, right? But if you actually map the difference between here to here, and people are paying you better, you actually can segregate and dissect the money, dissect the income. People are paying you better, which means that you focus on what? Good and quality tenants. So over 5 years, it's not just about increasing occupancy, but it's also improving the quality of the tenants. Because when you improve quality of the tenants, your areas utang, who don't pay your rental, decrease. You see, from 400,000 5 years ago to today, our rental areas that owe you has dropped by more than 50%, which means you are able to bring in people who's able to pay, plus your system has tightened up in the last 5 years. Okay? So look at data, it tells you certain things, certain trends. So that's what we did in the last 5 years. We go hard on people, we put very difficult payment, rental payment scheme and structures. Those who cannot pay, don't worry, we'll find a way on how you're going to pay. So you got to facilitate the businesses to be successful. People who are inside Waqf doesn't mean they get subsidy. But people who operate in your property must be successful, and you got to help them to be successful, so they pay you more. Right? Inshallah.
Next question? Anybody? Yes. Brother.
Yeah, I have a few questions. One of them.
Few questions.
Few questions.
Well, let's one by one.
I think I have my 10.
You want to tackle them all together?
No, we'll try, shall we?
I'll ask the first question.
Okay.
Regarding the Rental Control Act, Rent Control Act, you mentioned just now in one of the slides that one of the hindrances or challenges being in front of the MUIS or Waris was there was a Rent Control Act, and as you have known, in Malaysia we do have also Rent Control Act, which dampens the rental for Waqf properties in Malaysia, especially in Penang. So how do Singapore overcome that?
I think Rental Control Act came about during the after World War, right?
Yes.
And during that 1948, 1950, this is a British system. So when they are in this region, Singapore, Malaysia, all summer about Rental Control Act. And because of Rental Control Act, many of the pre-war shophouses like you see in Penang, it's the same as what we have. 70% of our portfolio is shophouses. So when we look at the statistics, because of Rent Control Act, we were unable to realize the value of our properties. In 1999, year 2000, Rental Control Act was rescinded. That means tak pakai. And it became a fully market driven. And because government earns from property tax, if you have Rental Control Act, they cannot earn enough from properties. So when Rental Control Act was rescinded, you slowly move into market rate. And if you do not follow the market rate happening to all other activities where your Waqf property is, you are still paying the property tax according to the aggregate of the area. So can you imagine if we still follow the Rental Control Act and yet you are paying property tax which are reflective of the market around it? Ultimately your Waqf is at net minus, got bracket. Finance, right? You want bracket means minus. Confirm. So you got to make sure that when Rental Control Act was rescinded, how do you now bring in a different slew of tenants to your property, because that area is going to change. ultimately over 5-10 years it will change. Nothing status quo. You got to be prepared for that. So alhamdulillah, when Rental Control Act was rescinded, we put in enough energy at time to bring in people who can pay, and people whose businesses had to change to generate better income, they had to. It's all market driven, without any subsidies and any help. So that's how we took advantage of the situation, and alhamdulillah we managed to slowly transform our set of tenants.
Next question.
Next question.
He said he had 3.
Yes.
One down,
One time.
2 to go.
Regarding your rental management system, could you share with us how do you manage the rental?
Okay. Manage rental, we are asset managers, right? Maybe as we have asset managers in our office, we don't have staff who goes out marketing our properties. We outsource all our marketing to the agents, to people. However, what do we control? We control the revenue that we want to attract. Different locations of properties, we know more or less what is your target. To set the target is pretty easy. You have to look at how the whole area is changing, what is the median tax valuation. From the tax valuation, it will tell you how much they are paying per rental, per unit rental PSF. So as you aggregate further, you see that you need to find this type of quality tenant. So what we did was, internally as an asset manager, we manage this revenue. We don't manage what's happening on the ground. We don't go out kicking people out of our property. All that we outsource. How many people is managing that revenue? You want to know? Give me an idea, perhaps a guess. How many people is managing that property or that kind of revenue? 8 million. One. In today's context, today, let's say if you are managing a real estate company, how many people would you put to generate 8 times 3, 24 million worth of ringgit Malaysia? One revenue manager, one good revenue. I have only 2 young staff. One is a statistician, the other guy who knows about property. And he doesn't go around knocking on our tenants to renew agreement and whatnot. We work with the agents, we build trust along the way. People will come to us to renew the agreement. You don't need to go. Because the level of trust is already there. You know what your target is. Of course, we play the hardware. Ni wakaf property, you want to pay below market, siapa nak jawab dosa ni? The way we ask for hutang, you should read our emails. We didn't say that you failed to pay 2 months of rental areas. We will say that for 2 months, our beneficiary to this wakaf were unable to enjoy the revenue that it has generated from the activities of your company. Change kan, it's communication kan. So why must you say, if you do not pay, I will send you another legal letter in 2 weeks time? Of course you won't lah. Of course that letter will come. But before that 2 letters come, if you have any problems of paying this, you can discuss with the wakaf and see ways in which we can help you structure your payments again, inshallah. People come to you, they will tell you their problems, right? And next time they give you higher security deposit, right? So how do you pay with it? Don't think your words are powerful, because you got legal backing, because you are right, you impose your rights on them. You play with psychology. You change the way you communicate. Look at your emails, look at the language of your emails. In some very difficult situation, I get my staff to email me what is the draft reply. And then after that, I edit myself. You have to do it right at the top. Don't expect the bottom thinking, okay, this is how you're going to do it. Right at the bottom will tell you, I follow what's the template lah. You write like this, I follow. No. You put yourself in that business. If you are in a business whereby it's facing difficulty, you know, how do you help the person? Do you put more pressure on the person? Right? The way you communicate is very key. I just picked up this book. thank you for arguing. The publisher is Pigeon Books. It's a very thick book. It will tell you the art of persuasion, but in a very, very refined way on how you argue your case. It's not like a self-help, you must do this, must do that. No. You pick up that book, will tell you how you win very difficult situations via persuasion. But it's okay to lose. It's okay to lose certain points. But you will win the war. You lose certain battles, it's fine. But remember, you have a war to win. So that's how we operate. I will let certain battles be lost, but one day I will gather all my army and I will win my war. So those numbers is the war. Those agreements and disagreements are small matters. Okay? So you must be accommodative, respectful. Doesn't mean you have the power of the agreement, you are somebody. No. You will be in those situations one day. Because one stroke on the pen will tell you, the lawyers will start coming in, the bailiff will start coming in. It's one stroke on the pen. But what if you can change that one stroke on the pen with a different word that will make the person be very comfortable with you? Inshallah, you will change. It's all small efforts, inshallah. Okay? Sorry, I took up a bit.
Last question.
I have one.
Yes.
How frequent Waris do valuation for their properties?
Every year, before audit. We are audited every year. So every year when you are supposed to do, when audit starts in February, you are supposed to close your accounts in June. Our valuation for the year end must finish before December. So every year towards end of the year, you must do valuation.
Do you have any registered valuer in Waris?
No, we don't do valuation internally. We do independent valuation. That means we bring people out. We source out valuers from the market, and they must give the real indication of the valuation of properties. That means sometimes some of our properties we value 2 times. So there are 2 different valuations just to see whether more or less.
But that is incurred cost from Waris. Why don't you take the internal valuation officer to work with Waris?
No, it will be not independent. It will be biased. Confirm biased.
Like a bank valuations.
Banks, the moment banks say you take this valuer, they are very good. Confirm biased. Okay, I'll be very straight and frank. I will not be putting in very saucy, nice words. Bias. Take independent valuer outside who doesn't even know there's Waqf property. Value it as a market. You tell me how much. And of course, you know the valuers by then who are the higher end, who are the lower end. You take the higher end and the lower end, you'll find a middle point. You cannot shortchange the Waqf. Never shortchange the Waqf because you know you can generate higher income. Because it's all at the valuation. Because as asset managers, we know. It's all by your valuation. Look at REITs. How do REITs charge their fees? Net asset value, right? That NAV, I tell you, is a very dirty item. That is, sorry to say, because all of you have been research in this area. The moment you play with that asset value, even though your income you generate is not enough to pay, because your asset value continue to increase, does the REIT manager lose money? Which REIT manager lose money? Tell me. No REIT manager lose money. Because their fees is based on asset value. You read any prospectus. You look at the structure of their management fee payment. Is it based on gross income? Percentage of the gross income? No. Waris fees on Waqf is based on gross income. That means if we don't generate that money, we are not paid. If I'm paid, if the company is paid by asset value, what can I do? I can always call a valuer, which is going to value my property very high. How much do you generate? Percentage, right? Even 1%. 1% out of 400 million is how much? 90,000, 100,000 maybe. But our cost of managing Waqf is very high. There's no money to actually bring returns. So, yeah. Oh, one more.
Sorry to deny you.
Yeah.
One last question from you. Can you share with us your structural organization
structure of the organization. I don't share it here because usually I keep that to those who visit us in Singapore. Because you know, if I show a structure, to me, if I show in any seminars, it's meaningless. You know why? Because you have to feel the culture of the company. You have to be inside the office. Then you understand why the structure of the organization is designed that way. Because structures is about organizational design. It's not about who you want to put at the top, who you put number 2. No, you design the organizational structure based on the culture that you want the organization to be. You look in many theory they will tell you this. But how do you do it? You must go to the office, you must see how we have been laid out, then you understand why the structure is like that. Okay, he'll be that side, I'll be this side.
You mentioned that your postings on your Facebook page do not have any discussion about the fifth aspect or Sharia aspect of the Waqf.
Yeah.
So how do you handle any comments of such from the public?
Okay, there's many big issues when it comes to Waqf. What do? We use newspapers. We do Waqf public education. Every year we run stories about Waqf in the newspaper from a religious perspective. We also show the activities done. But when there are questions arising from those in forum pages or in social media, usually it's being tracked by MUIS, not us. MUIS will track it from their comms. They will see where are all the different issues and they will address it one time. Fake issues you tak boleh engage one person tak habis. You cannot do that. You will see what is the issue that's happening in the issue of the day. Where are the specific areas? Then after that, you respond one time. If people ask, you never respond to my query. So you responded what in public forum page. If not, it's in a form of article or an interview by the Mufti. If Zaini were to say about fiqh, would people trust me? No, cannot. So let the experts do their work, we will do on the other work. So depending on the flavor of the month or flavor of the day, we will address it accordingly. So these are all strategic comms, and you cannot always go out there in the market, waste your time, do marketing. There's a lot of money in marketing. There's many ways to actually reduce it by just understanding what's the core issue.
So basically you have a MUIS's FIQ unit is addressing that straight away.
Yeah, the office of Mufti will be.
Okay. I think, just sorry, sister, the brother was patiently waiting in the back, and then I had to.
As I go through the list of Waqf properties in Singapore, you can see that most of the Waqf property are from the early 90s, 1950s, 30s, 40s. Some of them can find even in the 1800s. But very far you can find in the 90s or even the past 10 or 15 years.
Yes.
So first of all, I can see that Waqf property be managed well. Inshallah, even after a century you can find it there. But what can done to encourage the awareness for the new generation to do more Waqf in Singapore?
Thank you for the question. I think that's a very relevant question. It's a question that we internally have been asking ourselves. Our community, our rich are not coming forward to bequeath their wealth. Because number one, today property prices are skyrocketing and most of our properties are 99 years, no more freehold. So do you Waqf a 99-year property? Chances are very little. Because of the change in the planning policy and the prices which have gone up so high, people don't really Waqf their property. Because most of us stay in public housing. Can we Waqf public housing? We cannot. So public housing is not for Waqf. Its inheritance can, but cannot be Waqfed or bequeathed. The Waqf can put in trust. You can't put a property, public housing in trust. So we needed to create another structure, mechanism. We created Waqf Ilmu. Waqf Ilmu is a cash Waqf, where if you donate or if you Waqfkan your wealth from $100 to $10,000, you will invest in that Waqf fund for madrasah education. So because we saw that madrasah education needed more funds than the mosque, They created Waqf ilmu for anyone to have to become a Waqif. If not, it's only for the rich, right? What about me? I can't even Waqf a property, I can't afford one. But I want to Waqf. How do we sampaikan ya? How do we deliver the intention? Create products, create schemes where people, the norm, the masses can contribute. Our mosque building fund is actually cash Waqf. We are able to build 71 and upgraded it with $0 coming from the government. Why? Because we created that as a cash Waqf where every worker, every Muslim worker contributes to that cash Waqf every month depending on your income bracket. And because of that, our mosque continue to be upgraded and built. So that's
so over time, you could actually start investing in not just Waqf real estate, but non-Waqf real estate as part of generating a return.
Yes.
Okay, I just promised the sister at the back first. Sorry.
Would you mind to share with me maybe how is the Waris approach to build the trust in the initial stage? If the project already done, yes, we can solve, but how in the initial stage?
I share with you. Number one, we expect everyone, every staff in Waris to put people first. You can be an expert in finance, you're an engineer, you're an architect. If you are able to deal with people and engage people on the ground, you are not part of us. So we have strategies when we want to start Waqf projects. I've shared with you, we look at the intention, we look at the numbers. When we start mapping out who will be the ones that we need to buy in with, we map out from the family, we map out from the community, we map out politicians, we map out people who may have interest in the Waqf. And every of these people have different strategies when you meet them. You say different things. Don't use one master slide, this master slide for everyone. Yes, you have a master slide, but because mungkin family tu is pakcik-makcik, you want to show numbers like that. So what is this? You think I very stupid, is it? Don't. You must have different approach. Touch their hearts. This Waqf was this long time ago, but I think we have a potential. We create something. Can you be part of us? People want to be involved. People want to have a say. How do you do that? You cannot say, sorry, no entertainment, you are not one of us. You are not one of us. In our office, we made sure even the cleaner is like any of our managers. That's how we treat our cleaner. If you do not treat the cleaner as he is also the CEO of the organization, you are out. If you have that culture in your organization, you will treat every stakeholder the same. And I put emphasis on that. So, yeah. I don't mind if I stand.
How would you incorporate, the booming of all the crowdfunding and fintech into the Waqf, or has that already been ongoing in your Singapore?
Okay, thanks for that question. I know that's trending today. Crowdfunding, if you look at it, it is basically retail. It's individual involvement in property development, in other trades. You've seen that. However, Waqf is about governance. The moment if any of this crowdfunding fails, the implication is a lot more. That's number one. Number two, Waqf is more institutional rather than individual retail. Because if you enter crowdfunding, they will say 7%, 8%. But when you look at the property, their base is very low. They're in Indonesia, Malaysia, they are never in Singapore. In Singapore, if you say, I'm getting this 7, 8%, something is not right. You can tell. So therefore, our maybe crowdfunding, fintech and all that has not matured because we keep our Waqf investments to institutional rather than individual. Because once you manage individual, the cost of managing your investor relations are very high. Why must Waqf pay investor relation cost? Why your Waqf is just to maximize its returns, right? You give to the beneficiary. Why must it go to individual returns? I'd rather go for something which is it costs less headache, maximize returns for the beneficiary. But what I'm saying, I'm not totally against it, but it's just that the model at the moment is not fully strong. Because any default in crowdfunding, who do you go after?
Maybe just to extend that, rather than crowdfunding, it could be crowdfinancing, because now the investment banking model is changing. There's much more direct auctions for IPOs. So maybe as an extension, perhaps not in Singapore, maybe in Malaysia, when you try to raise funds directly from the public, maybe crowdfinancing for equity, institutional and high net worth could be developed.
This is, I think, Muiz is known of a very good, that you did mention about the sukuk, right? But in your statement, we are saying that sukuk may not be the cost effective. So maybe it's good for you to highlight what are the problems, for example, moving forward on this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We are not experts in sukuk. There are many other products out there, as Dr. Adam mentioned, there's equity financing and all that, which is a lot more available out there by private equity. We are not into sukuk primarily because the size of our portfolio, size of our projects is not sizable enough to generate the kind of returns we want. Because if you run sukuk, the cost of running a sukuk is very high. Legal cost, the financing cost behind it is a bit more complicated. Because of the high cost and it reduces our returns, and your risk is a lot longer and you are not too sure when you are able to redeem all your coupon, we decided to go on a smaller scale. Because if Waqf properties, if you put several properties into a fund and you manage it from sukuk financing, not all properties can start at one time. Waqf properties generate problems. So your risk is very, very high. If you are at just 50 million, even at 100 million sukuk is still high. You may need slightly higher than that. There might be other avenues, equity financing. There's a lot in the market. But for us, we try as much as we can to go within ourselves first. How do we return all these benefits to our institution, Muslim institutions first? By doing simple structures.
In fact, your 3I initiative is exactly equity financing.
Correct.
I guess the advantage there is that you're maximizing your return to your beneficiaries as opposed to a financial intermediary and the cost of financing.
Correct.
So there's obviously, it would improve your yield to the beneficiaries.
I think not only improving yield, we are able to build trust with our institutions. Because when you do very simple equity financing, you got to choose which organization you want to work with. And these are strategic. You don't open all to the market. You know this organization has been contributing, they want to do more. And we show that we have the financial power or structures to help them produce more. So it's not just about making money, it's about strengthening their processes and strengthening their source of income.
And at the end of the day, the Baitul Mal would also have to guarantee those sukuk. And then we're talking about a Waqf property after all. So there are many issues there. So ultimately you're trying to return to the Baitul Mal.
Perhaps I just want to share one thing. In Singapore, we have lines to the banks, but we have never put our Waqf property as collaterals. No banks will take your Waqf properties as collaterals, and better not. If things go wrong, the banks take over your property, the whole trust that you have built over 15 years will be gone within 1.5 hours. Post on social media, it virals, 1.5 hours is gone. You got to protect that. So what do? We only we put our other commercial properties as collaterals, never Waqf. The moment the public knows that you put Waqf properties as collateral, the trust will diminish. Okay?
So I think maybe I can just squeeze in one more question before we let Mr. Zoni go for the day. One last question from somebody perhaps.
Just want to know, because in your numbers you don't show how many properties that you have and also the value.
The value.
Yes.
Okay, Ken. At the moment, if you see our slides earlier, our current valuation. Yeah. In Singapore, you can see we have slightly above 130 over properties. We have two types. One is MUIS managed, that means properties which are in very bad condition. Mutawali don't want to manage, trustee don't want to manage. So MUIS always get the worst group of property. If you are Mutawali managed, you are usually linked to the family, the clan, right? So they are usually better properties, yielding more. However, with a difficult property, which if you look at even the valuation, they are lower. They are lower, but we are generating higher yield than them. It goes to show, these are real numbers. 316 million is managed internally. We are generating 7.9 million. That's about 2.5. These guys' valuation is about 333. They are generating less. Which means that if you put effort within a small group of asset managers, chances are, inshallah, it gets better. Because we pool our resources together, we pool our finance together, we pool our expertise together. These are the same people who manage income and the same people who manage development, who manage all other processes. So you have a shared services, central corporate services. So when you have central corporate services, chances are you can disburse more. Income and you can disburse more. If you act individually, your costs are very high. Right?
So these Mutawali managed, these are the ones managed by Al-Sadaf or Al-Junaid.
Yeah, right.
And the most ones are the more individual or...
The MUIS managed ones are smaller sets of properties, which are not linked to the bigger families. So if you see Al-Sadaf, you see Al-Junaid, they have their own Mutawali trustees which are appointed and they manage it on their own. But they submit reports every year. It must be audited, it's submitted to Parliament via MUIS. Our accounts are submitted to Parliament on the 31st of June and it's all inside our annual report that you download from muis.gov.sg. So because of that, all these Mutawali will have to follow the same standards. But for MUIS, we take from the smaller families or smaller Waqfs which doesn't have a family linked to it anymore, or they are just not interested. Too small, generate what kind of return if they were to manage it internally. So we put it together and we have one company that manages it all. Hope that addresses your question.
When you say 72 properties, you have 72 renters.
Not exactly. Sometimes each of our property will have multiple units. So this is just number of properties, not by number of units. Number of units might be a lot more. Yes, ma'am.
Question about the Mutawali managed properties. Are they, in any sense, controlled by MUIS in terms of, let's say, fatwa, adillah, fatwa?
Mutawalis, number one, must be appointed by MUIS. So in law, based on Amla, if you read, Mutawalis have to be appointed by MUIS. Even now, recently with the amendment of Amla, about 2 to 3 months ago, even the High Court is saying that they are not going to appoint trustees from High Court anymore. Everything goes to MUIS. So any dispute to Waqf, any appointment of Mutawali or trustees all go to MUIS. So even the High Court doesn't want to deal with these issues anymore, number one. Number two is we have Waqf regulations, we have Waqf policies which are already ingrained, and we tell them what's the deliverable for each of the Mutawali. You got to submit your accounts bila, where do you disperse your funds, who are they, all these things are audited. So there are instances we find there are fraud and they go to jail. And we have put people behind bars. Not many. Sometimes it's their inability to track records, to track financing. We see certain gaps. We see how much you are collecting and what you are disbursing is so meager. Something is wrong in between. So we do forensic audits. We bring the matter to court. And if there's any issues, let the court decide. Because ultimately we must protect the institution of Waqf. The institution must be above everyone. There's a saying, right? AP is white color, right? You must be whiter than white. So that's how Waqf should be.
So the tower manage assets. My question is, the tower manage assets were entirely appointed by the MUIS.
Yes.
And so all these, what have you said about the foreign security? It is managed by, administered by MUIS or WARIS? MUIS.
When there's forensic audits or forensic audit and normal audit, those are enforcement and governance. MUIS will take. Ours we don't. That means MUIS can also do audit on us. MUIS does audit on us. MUIS check on our business proposal. MUIS checks on our accounts. Same like it does to the Mutawali, just that we are a private company. So the rules apply across the same. If you are an individual Mutawali or we are an owner rep to MUIS, same. So in fact we are tighter than any belt. Because the standards have to be higher than an individual Mutawali. If you are anything lesser than that, why do I need you? Right? So in fact, the regulations are even more tighter with us. We put up more papers. We have to go through the board. We have to go through MUIS management. We have to go through Zakat unit. So the discipline is what we need to protect. Waqf is about discipline.
Cik Zani,
Yes,
just
I-
now you said about zakat. What is the contribution from WARIS to zakat?
Zero. Zakat is not our core business. Zakat in Singapore is totally separate, managed by MUIS. They raise money from whoever is supposed to contribute, and they will manage the asnaf distribution. We do not deal with zakat. Zero. So our core business is protected.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So I think we could be spending all afternoon asking more questions actually. So thank you so much, Dr. Zaini, for sharing the time with us this morning. Please, brothers and sisters, please give Dr. Zaini a round. There's one last formality, I think, and that is to
Take my slides. Okay, for those who needed slides, I think it is with Hafiz, I think.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just
Okay, thank you. So thank you again, Mr. Zaini, for a very insightful presentation and very active participation from the audiences as well. So thank you everyone for coming. So before we end our session, I'm honored to invite Professor Dr. Musni, the Deputy Dean of Student Affairs, to give some token of appreciation to Mr. Zaini. Okay.
squeeze him on the side.
Yeah. Satu lagi.
I feel like a student between very learned people around. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for coming and hope to see you again for the next event or program organized by IVF and IVF Student Society. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Can we get the whole the group picture? Please.
Zaini and Zaini.
Boleh tak? Di luar. Oh, buat ni.
Di luar.
Just take one first and then afterward nanti aku ada yang tak.
Flash tu kena kat saya gelap sikit.
Not around the
Wider and clear.
One, two, three. Okay, one more. One, two, three. Okay.
Thank you.
Terima kasih.
Thanks everyone.
So you have to set up the Malaysian accent.